Good morning. My name's Robert Posey. I'm the acting United States Attorney for Northern Alabama. Here with me from the FBI is Acting Assistant Special Agent in Charge Dean Abbott, and from the IRS, Acting Assistant Special Agent in Charge Lisa Fontanetta. Today, the United States Attorney's Office filed federal felony charges against former State Representative Oliver Robinson. Mr. Robinson is charged with conspiracy, bribery, and defrauding the people of Alabama and his constituents of his honest services. The gist of the charges are that Mr. Robinson accepted a valuable contract from a Birmingham law firm in exchange for using his position in the Alabama legislature to advocate for the position of a coal company, which was a client of the law firm, to advocate for the position of the coal company in opposing a proposal from the Environmental Protection Agency to expand the area covered by the current 35th Avenue Superfund site. This proposal would have put additional Birmingham neighborhoods on a national priority list for cleanup and remediation of deposits of toxic chemicals into the soil of those neighborhoods. The communities currently covered by the Superfund are the neighborhoods of Collegeville, Fairmont, and Harriman Park. This proposal would have expanded that national priority list to include Tarrant and Inglenook. At the time of the charged conspiracy, Birmingham law firm Balch and Bingham represented Drummond Coal and its affiliate ABC Coke. ABC Coke had been named by EPA as potentially responsible for the cleanup of these neighborhoods. And Mr. Robinson's key act on behalf of the coal company and in exchange for the contracts with the law firm were to appear in his capacity as a state representative before the Alabama Environmental Management Commission and before the director of the Alabama Environmental Management Commission to argue against EPA's declaration and expansion of Superfund site and argue on behalf of the interest of the coal company, who could have potentially been responsible for tens of millions of dollars in cleanup. Mr. Robinson did not disclose this conflict of interest either to his constituents or to the Alabama Environmental Management Commission. So this is an example of a well-funded public interest who offered an irresistible inducement to a public official. In exchange, that public official represented the interest of those who were paying him rather than the interest of his community and constituents here in Birmingham. In addition to the conspiracy and honest services wire fraud counts, Mr. Robinson is charged with additional wire fraud counts for misuse of campaign contributions paid to his House campaign, and for fraud with relating to solicitation of private contributions to a firm he had that ran events in the Birmingham area. The last count also charges Mr. Robinson with tax evasion for his 2015 calendar year returns for failure to report the bribe and the contract payments that were made to him. The contracts paid to Mr. Robinson totaled $360,000. I would now like to turn it over to FBI Acting Special Agent in Charge, Dean Abbott.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here with our law enforcement partners, the IRS and the U.S. Attorney's Office. Public corruption remains the #1 criminal investigative priority of the FBI. Public corruption tears at the fabric of our society and undermines the democracy of that society. Greed is what drives public corruption. It's greed that drove Mr. Robinson to take the actions that he took to betray the trust of those in the community that elected him to his position. Let me be clear, there's no place in government for people like Mr. Robinson or those elected officials that will betray their community. To those in public office that may be considering taking payoffs or bribes, don't do it. And if you do, you should expect the same result as Mr. Robinson has encountered. To the public, if you know something about a corrupt public official, please contact the FBI at our tip line, 844-404-TIPS, and be assured that we will take action on your complaint. Thank you.
All right. And
the IRS Criminal Investigation is committed to working with our law enforcement partners here at the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office in these types of cases. Public officials, whether elected or appointed, hold positions of trust in the eyes of the public. That trust is broken when these officials commit crimes. No public official gets a free pass to ignore the tax laws, and IRS Criminal Investigation works to ensure that everyone pays their fair share. Elected officials take an oath to serve the community. Instead of helping the community, Mr. Robinson enriched himself at the expense of the taxpayers who elected him to serve. IRS Criminal Investigation is committed to tracing financial transactions to ensure that those who engage in these illegal activities are brought to justice.
I also want to mention that we also filed today a plea agreement that Mr. Robinson has signed with the United States, and these charges and the date for a plea hearing will be set by the court. Yes, sir.
In regards to if he was bribed, obviously there's a briber. Does investigation continue on that end?
The investigation is continuing. Both the FBI and the IRS are continuing those investigations. We have copies of both the information and the plea agreement available that sets out much more detail of the charges than I have gone into. But those additional persons are not named but indicated in the information.
Mr. Posey,
yes, sir.
Is Mr. Robinson cooperating with the FBI, be it in items surrounding this or other matters?
Mr. Rob, the plea agreement that we filed with Mr. Robinson calls for his cooperation, and he has already begun that cooperation.
Yet again, another, even though he's a former public official, another public official in Alabama, it just seems that in the long line of public corruption in this state. I mean, what do you say to them, and what does this say to our state here?
Yes, looking back over the other public corruption cases that our office has prosecuted in the past, as I said, this is in line with the facts we had in those cases, where you had a special interest that was well funded, that was offering inducements to a public official to do what was in the interest of those that were paying the bribes, rather than in the best interest of the community. So you had this same type of conduct with Larry Langford and other public officials that we prosecuted. Yes, sir. Anything?
Going back to that first question, do you hold the bribers in the same sort of category? I mean, do you go after them with the same zeal that you go after the public official?
Absolutely. I mean, I know that we have seen reports of allegations of pay to play, but really the bribe payers are the one who set the game. They are the ones that offer the inducements to the politicians in the first place. So it's for the most part not the politicians demanding pay to play, but those that are paying demand that the politicians do their bidding.
Any other questions?
Are there any charges forthcoming for those who may have been involved in the bribing?
The investigation is continuing on those individuals.
Is anyone in Mr. Robinson's family also of interest that being involved in this matter?
Not at this time.
While the maximums are given on the sentences, just based on a quick scan, there's no definite explanation of what the plea agreement will be. What have you all offered?
There are federal sentencing guidelines that will apply, and the court will calculate those guidelines and apply those guidelines, and we have agreed to make recommendations within whatever guideline range is determined by the court. Yes, sir, Mr. Falk.
This isn't a binding plea agreement, is it?
No.
So what's the next step?
The next step in terms of court is Mr. Robinson will have a date set for an appearance before the court, and we'll have a date set for entering a guilty plea. The next step for the investigation is to be determined.
When you say it's not a binding plea agreement?
So there are different types of plea agreements. What we call a binding plea is a plea agreement where the United States and the defendant agree on a particular sentence. That particular sentence is stated in the plea agreement, and we ask the court to impose that sentence. And if the court accepts that plea agreement, then the court will impose the sentence. That's a relatively rare type of plea agreement that we do. And that's not the kind we have here. This is a plea agreement where the court will calculate the guidelines, and we will make a recommendation within that guideline range. And in the event of cooperation, we have agreed to potentially recommend a sentence below the guideline range.
What kind of sentence are we looking at? 5 years or less? More than 5 years?
Again, the precise guideline will be calculated by the court, but the guidelines would call for some jail time.
Have you discussed these conditions of the plea agreement with Mr. Robinson? You said he's been cooperating, but have you had those conversations yet?
Yes, he's represented by counsel, and Mr. Robinson and his counsel have signed the plea agreement.